Yeah. What's up? Beards, let us know if we're good. I think we're good now. For whatever reason, almost every time after, I mean, I don't know if we used, Twitch is playing a ton of ads right now. No worries, buddy.
There you are.
There you are.
Hell
Thank you, Garrett. Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't know. For whatever reason, we'll edit this out. Michaela, edit this out when we upload it to YouTube. But yeah, for whatever reason, after every time we use Streamlabs, it just like resets the microphone, I guess. I don't know why. I know before why that was the case because, you know, we would do different types of streams with different microphones. Like if you know, Michaela, or Garrett or whoever streamed through the channel for like a different show, but we didn't do anything in between Wednesday and now. So
jokes on you guys, we were just mouthing.
Jokes on you, yeah.
Anyway,
That was a bit. That was our opening bit, our cold open bit for sure.
So anyway, we've been ranking the D&D classes.
Yes, we have.
And we've been doing.
Well, hold on, because so for the. Because we have to kind of redo like the beginning. I know. It'll be real quick. Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Little Dicey Podcast. My name is Salvatore. This is Matt. We're your co-hosts here on A Little Dicey. And recently we've been doing a little bit of a ranking of the 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons classes, the core classes. We've been going down the line. This is episode 9 today, based on our voting polls in our community Discord, which you can check it out in the description below on YouTube or in chat right now if you are here on Twitch. But we're doing the Rogue today, like I said, based on the voting there in Discord. But yeah, we've got a little bit of a different way to rank everything. So Matt, if you want to tell us how we specifically do our rankings here. It's not just a power ranking system.
Correct. This is a job satisfaction system based on not just how effective you are, but how much you feel like you're living the fantasy that you hoped for when you picked your D&D class. You know, most of us, I think, pick a class not because we like a particular ability or because we're like, this is just objectively the strongest one or whatever. It's because like we want to be a druid or we want to be a bard or we want to be whatever. So we're just basically making sure that you're gonna feel like what you hope to feel like based on the mechanics presented in the game.
Exactly. Well said, well said. So like I said just now, and definitely not 15 minutes ago when we had a technical difficulty because we're dealing with technology beyond our limits. Definitely not. We are going to be ranking the Rogue today. And sort of what we do around here, we're both Matt and I have been playing Dungeons & Dragons and tabletop games in general for a hot minute. I've been a dungeon master for the past 6 or 7 odd years now at this point, which I know is like pales in comparison to the 60-year-old homies that have been playing this game for a while.
Yeah, although I imagine that with the sudden burst of popularity of these kinds of games, it's probably way more than the average.
Probably, I would think so. I have a pretty well-rounded knowledge of 5th edition in general, and because I am first and foremost a dungeon master and very rarely a player, I have a sort of cursory knowledge of all of the classes because I've DM'd for many different people, and I've DM'd for every single class that you can play.
You want to name drop some of the many celebrities you've DM'd?
Yeah, I've definitely, Barack Obama. Yeah. Me and Barry go way back, dude. Dude, shouts out to Barry.
He hated playing a monk, by the way.
Oh yeah, he really didn't like it.
It's like, why?
Yeah, no, he really hated the monk. That was crazy. Barry O. I also, this is controversial, but I did it because for the love of the game. Jim Jugger.
Who was that? I didn't quite get that.
I don't feel comfortable saying it anymore.
I'm really looking forward to just being a fly on the wall in your upcoming game with Kid Rock.
Oh God.
Who else in that game? I remember
who else?
For sure, yeah. Your other players?
Kid Rock for sure.
Isn't Fred Durst in that game?
Fred Durst is definitely in that game. Yeah. Fred Durst is yes. And that's it actually. It's just the two of them. It's just the two of them. Yeah. Yep. Really good stuff. No, but that really fucked me up. That really got me. No, I have DM'd for every single class that's available in the game right now, at least that Wizards of the Coast has published. And I've actually DM'd for a couple classes that are not official. So I have a cursory knowledge of most of the classes. And Matt, who has Dungeon Mastered before, which is awesome. Also, if you haven't checked out Matt's one shot on our channel, it's both of the parts of that one shot, the duo shot, are uploaded on our YouTube channel. I highly suggest checking that out. It's really, really wonderful, really well written and well led, in my opinion. And the characters are super fun too. So check that out. But Matt's got a really, really good understanding of the classes that he has played. Very wonderful player, very in tune with how he uses the mechanics that will, sort of drive the fantasy of the character that he's playing. And like he said earlier, that is sort of the most important thing that we both look for in what makes a good class or a high tier class. And just to give you an example, everyone loves the Bard. We started off, this podcast ranking the Bard off first, and we both went into it thinking like, all right, well, we have problems with the Bard class, but we love the Bard in general. We just love, that class, the more iconic players from it. That's generally the most memorable class for the most part. And so we sort of ranked it right in the middle to see where we were going to go with it off the bat. And we ended up giving it F tier. In our opinion, it is the worst class when it comes to, mechanics to fantasy, like being able to actually portray what a Bard is through the mechanics that Wizards of the Coast give you in 5th edition. And that's unfortunate because we fucking love the class and we love the idea of the class.
And we, I personally asked Jenna, who, was a sort of founding member of the Dicey crew as a player, and she was playing a Bard, and I said, do you feel like a Bard or do you feel like a hot, dumb wizard? And she's like, yeah, I feel like a hot, dumb wizard.
Yeah, and that's the case for the most part. But I have a feeling that today might be a little bit different because I think, much like how we started the Bard episode, much like how we started the Wizard episode, I don't think there's a question in anyone's mind as to, even if you asked someone who's never played D&D before, maybe like you just like Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones or something, this is an archetypical character in almost any genre of story. There is a roguish character, right? This is sort of your underhanded, will do less than usually will do less than noble things to get this job done. It's usually the person who will do the dirty work or do it in the shadows, or is the least the last thing you expect or whatever. And so if you ask anybody generally, like, if I were to say, I want you to explain to me what a rogue is or who a roguish person might be, you're probably immediately going to come up with like 5 or 6 different characters from any sort of IP or genre or anything that you can be like, oh, this is a rogue, this is a roguish person. And for all intents and purposes, every player that I've DM'd for who has played a rogue, which is a lot, it's probably for my money on the people that I've DM'd, it's the most popular class.
I was gonna say it's probably one of the most popular classes.
People love playing it because you don't get to make the kind of choices that you can make in the game in real life, and that's what people love to do. People love to play this game and make choices that they wouldn't be able to make in real life, whether that be playing a character who is more courageous than they usually are, or more outgoing than they usually are, or whatever. There's always that thing in the back of people's minds where they're like, you know what, I wish I could go into the fucking bank and rob this bank. Like, everybody thinks about that, right?
Yeah.
That's just human nature.
Or you could be me, and you could hate lying in real life, and then also hate lying in D&D, even though you have a +8 to deception.
Yeah, of course.
And just stop doing it because you hate it, because it makes you so uncomfortable.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And naturally.
Yeah.
So the rogue is generally, as far as I've been able to see, the most popular class. I think, if I also recall, we usually, or at least I, refer to Critical Role here on the channel a lot because I'm very familiar with it. But I think that most people who play D&D, or at least have gotten into it relatively recently, either know of Stranger Things or know of Critical Role, or maybe even now The Legends of Vox Machina if they saw it on Amazon, right? So generally, that's how people come into the game nowadays, or what any other live-based game like Adventure Zone or what have you, or anything else, D20, all that stuff. For my money, I believe every single campaign that they've had and any other show that I've seen always has someone playing a rogue. Always. I've never not seen one in a party.
I think it goes back to that. Like even if you're not like an old school gamer or like an old school nerd, I think most people have this general sense of like what an adventuring party is supposed to kind of have in it.
Yeah.
And I think most people think it's like the guy that kills stuff.
Yep.
The guy that heals people. The guy that like casts other spells or whatever. And then the guy that does the roguish stuff.
Yeah.
Who's kind of ends up being sort of the catch-all for everything else.
Yeah.
And like, not to say that you actually need all four of those things.
Right.
But I think there is that classic feeling of like, I need a fighter, I need a rogue, I need a wizard, and I need a priest. Or
well, you see it. You see it literally in any team-based story. Like that is the archetypical
Final
team.
Fantasy games work that way. There's
Final
always the
Fantasy
guy that can
games, yep.
steal, whatever.
The fucking if you look at the fucking Avengers, that's what they have. I mean, they have like a handful of them, but like you could break down like the D&D classification of the Avengers and be like, oh, this guy's a cleric, this is the whatever, the blah blah blah. And it's like they don't succeed until they come together, right? Like that's literally the whole fucking point of them.
Yeah.
And so the rogue is a huge
rogue.
Natasha's easily. I mean, and that's
is there another rogue in the main group? Probably not.
I mean, the Black Widow is very clearly. She's the rogue. It's very clear. I think nowadays, like, looking at it a little bit with the updated team, spoilers since she's dead.
Is Loki an arcane trickster?
Of course he's an arcane trickster, for sure. So yeah, he could be a rogue. He could also just be a fucking...
He could just be a sorcerer.
He could be a sorcerer. But yeah, I think Loki, more than anything, is an arcane trickster, especially because he uses daggers too. That's his sort of main
That's just
thing.
his vibe.
It's his whole vibe, for sure. But yeah, you can see them in every single thing. Lord of the Rings, all of the hobbits are basically rogues. Like, that's their whole shtick.
It's also not, I don't think it's a coincidence that, like, in all of these teams, the cool character is always the rogue.
Always the cool,
right?
It's always the cool
one
person.
That has, like, oddly enough, the one that has the charisma, even though rogues generally don't use charisma for anything. The charismatic, cool one is almost always the roguish character.
And fandom in our chat right now, which shouts out to fandom, they're always active, always giving us some good shit. The archetypical 5-person band includes the leader, the lancer, the heart, the smart guy, and the powerhouse. I would suggest generally the rogue is usually the lancer as well. Can also be the leader.
What is lancer?
Lancer is it's like, I believe it derives from Lancelot, who is the second to King Arthur.
Okay.
And so you're usually like, whereas King Arthur is the leader, the right-hand man who is willing to do the shit that needs to be done is the Lancer.
I see.
As far as, and also generally the person who is like, a DPS, if that makes sense, just straight up in the game. Correct me if I'm wrong, fandom, or anybody else that might be watching this, I'm pretty sure it is derived from Lancelot, if I remember correctly. But yeah, so generally the rogue is the lancer. The rogue can also be the leader. Like if you look at the A team, Face is a rogue.
Okay.
Like that's just the case there. But that's a 4-person
rogue
team.
is like the hacker.
The rogue could be the smart guy too. Yeah. The rogue could also be the smart guy. The rogue is almost never the powerhouse.
Or it could also be the sort of like the demolitions guy. Just like the rogue is ultimately the utility guy.
Yes, and Garrett also says, so he asks about our main campaign, which if you haven't seen that, if you stumble upon this conversation and you don't know, we do play live Dungeons & Dragons on Twitch on Wednesday evenings at 6 p.m. at a little Dicey D&D on Twitch. Check us out there. We have a party that consists of a sorcerer, a rogue, of course, a druid, and now an artificer, which is a wonderful new addition. And the three sort of mainstays, the sorcerer, the rogue, and the druid. Kill is a turtle druid, which you play fabulously. Kill is definitely the powerhouse for sure. I would also say that Kill can be the smart guy as well, here and there. I don't necessarily know if anyone really is the leader at this point. It is picked up dependent on the encounter.
It's almost picked up depending on the other definition. Like if it's if Indigo is the heart and it's sort of like a heart-based decision, then he becomes the leader.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
If it's like a time to stab this guy, if it's like if it's a Lancer decision, then Yaz becomes the leader in that way. Yeah. We don't really have we have an interesting group dynamic in that, like, we don't really have, like, I would say we don't exactly have a like a defining moral center. It's sort of
No, it's very fluid, to be honest with you, which is cool.
Depending on the situation and depending on which character cares the most about it, everyone else will sort of line up behind them for the most part.
Yeah, that's generally the case. Yeah.
I would say that Kill is probably a little bit of the oddball out in that he's sort of like he'll want to do something and other people just be like,
what? Sure. Well, yes, yeah, and that is the case. And, getting back to Phantom in chat, they suggest that Zuko is a really wonderful example of a Lancer, which I completely agree. Zuko is totally, especially in the later seasons of Avatar, Zuko is definitely the Lancer for sure.
Yeah, it's basically the cool aloof guy.
The cool aloof dude,
who's very capable.
Yes, absolutely. And that represents a lot of what the Rogue is, especially even in Wizards of the Coast Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. And I think at that point, now that we've established, what we all sort of think of what a rogue is, I think we can jump into what Wizards of the Coast would suggest mechanically.
Yeah.
Hopefully that would support that too. So given my additional, just my off-the-cuff knowledge of what the rogue is, having DM'd for many, many different rogues, and spoiler alert, everyone kind of plays it pretty similar, which is fine. I mean, that's the whole point of the class, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's very difficult. And I'm sure if Jenna ever sees this, Jenna in our first campaign played a rogue, and it's very difficult to play it's very difficult to play against what the class suggests for you mechanically.
Yeah.
Because the mechanics actively fight against what you want your character to be if you're playing against the rogue archetype. You know what I mean? So it's very difficult to do that.
I would say though that and this is almost something that I was going to complain about.
Sure.
Tell you what, let's talk about that when we get into the features. When we get into expertise.
I'm gonna just off the rip. What I know usually, there are some things that I have a problem with the rogue. I feel like they don't get enough interesting stuff, which we sort of mentioned in our precursory talks before we went live. But what they have is good, and what they have makes a lot of sense. The mechanics behind it are great. The power is good. Very useful in a lot of different situations. If you play it correctly, very hard to fucking die, which Garrett can attest to that because it's very hard to hit him, especially with this particular subclass. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start off the bat. We're gonna go with a B for me. It's good, it's great, it gets the job done. I wish it had a little bit more interesting things going on about it.
Yeah.
But it's great. I think it's a really good starting class too for most people. And I think that usually goes, that for me personally, that always sits a little higher on the list for me because I really love trying to get people into the game. And when the barrier to entry on the literal class, the core thing that you're doing, when it's you probably should at least play the game for 3 months before it's 3 months. What the fuck are you talking about? Can I just pick it up and go? It's yeah, kind of, but even at the first couple of levels, it's still complicated to play. Rogue isn't, which is great.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it an A. I think I don't know a lot about necessarily the high level features off the top of my head, but I think the package that you get in the first couple of levels
so solid,
is
dude.
so solid.
Yeah.
I think it gives you everything that you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. We're not going to spend too much time on. We usually like to check out what Wizards of the Coast writes flavor-wise in the class details of the rogue. I've read through it. The prose is cool.
Yeah.
It's literally what everybody thinks a rogue is. So
let's just hear that. Is that skill and
precision?
I like to read this because we like to read the top part, the flavor stuff. If we're I have no idea.
Yeah, what should this be? Yeah.
This to me, and I've said this before, this is where Wizards tells us what this class should do.
Yep.
And if this doesn't line up with the features, then that's a big problem.
Yep, I agree. So, skill and precision. It says, rogues devote as much effort to mastering the use of a variety of skills as they do to perfecting their combat abilities. So that off the bit gives us a pretty clear indication of what we should be expecting. Giving them a broad expertise that few other characters can match. I would think the only exception is one other class. Many rogues focus on stealth and deception. while others refine the skills that help them in a dungeon environment, such as climbing, finding and disarming traps, and opening locks. I find that a very interesting way to put that. I don't know. Yeah, that's a very interesting thing to say. It's true, but calling that a dungeon environment based skills, I guess is true, but I don't think if you were to ask anybody like, hey, how are you going to build this rogue? And they're like, oh, I'm building it like a dungeoneer. Usually they just think like, oh, that's part of my roguish
I
stuff.
just think that's because of a general sort of unfocusing or defocusing on like dungeon delving.
Yeah.
Because for
It
sure,
really
like
happens.
probably the if you're gonna pick any sort of classic archetype for a rogue, it's like the treasure hunter.
Oh yeah,
right? And treasure hunter is usually not like, oh hey, there's a house over there, nobody seems to be home, let's see if they have anything in it.
Right.
Because what are you really gonna get?
Yeah.
It's classic like, no, I'm gonna go into a dungeon, I'm gonna find
See
it.
from these crypts.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So that makes sense to me,
Cool.
even though we don't see it as much.
Yeah, that's another example I think from a couple previous episodes of like, well, no one like plays it like this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So such is life. It then says when it comes to combat, rogues prioritize cunning over brute strength. That makes a lot of sense. A rogue would rather make one precise strike, placing it exactly where the attack will hurt the target the most, than wear an opponent down with a barrage of attacks, which I think that's a really, really great summary of the mechanics behind the combat abilities of the rogue.
I agree.
So that's really
It's very
that's great. That already makes me, knowing what we're going to be going into, I'm already thinking like, oh, okay, that's a really good establishment of like some of these things. So that makes me even, lean higher to where you're rating the rogue. Just that sentence alone. Rogues have an almost supernatural knack for avoiding danger, and a few learn magical tricks to supplement their other abilities. So, I mean, this is, knowing what I know about the rogue, this is actually really, really great.
Do rogues get magical tricks other than the one obvious subclass?
I think that's why they're,
Okay.
I think that's what they're alluding
I think they
to.
should take that out of that paragraph.
I think so
But-
too, only because that's not a part of the base class. Yeah, I totally agree to that.
Unless I'm forgetting something that rogues get, that doesn't.
Turn the music down a bit? Yeah, just pull the desktop audio down.
Like this one, literally.
Desktop audio?
That's-
No, the, like, in the mixer.
Oh,
Go
I
up.
see. Yeah.
Yeah, and then just pull that back.
Yoink.
Keep going. And that should be good.
How's that?
Yeah, should be better. It's either off or it's still
Okay.
going. Whatever. Cool. All right. Yes, no worries, East. Also
Thanks
good
for
to see you.
letting us know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Okay, so that's the skill and precision little paragraph that they give us to sort of give us a really good idea of what we should expect mechanically to support this type of fantasy. So let's just jump into the sort of base abilities that we get. We go through the class features here. First, a lot of us might know these, which I actually forget all the time. The rogue hit dice is actually a D8. For whatever reason in my head, I'm always like, oh, it's also one of those glass cannon classes that would get a D6.
Okay.
But it's not. It's right in between, a
Yeah.
caster or a pure caster and a marshal or the fighter, which is a D10.
Basically, only the wizard and the sorcerer get the D6.
Yeah.
They are the squishiest of
They're the
both men.
squishiest, yes.
Yeah.
So, proficiencies, light armor, makes sense. You got to move quickly. Weapons, simple tools, hand crossbows, longswords, rapiers, and short swords. This always surprised me a little bit because I really feel like you should just give them access to martial weapons. Because even if, like, the stat that you're using doesn't support you using a longsword or a base longsword, there are other martial weapons that have the finesse property than rapier, and it's kind of just like, why don't you just have access to that? You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. It's like if you want to play a rogue and you're like, well, I want to use this particular weapon, but like it's not my proficiency, and you're starting relatively low level. Like me as a dungeon master, if someone brought this up to me, I'd be like, yeah, I don't care. Like that's fine. So
Are they
it's always
mechanically
interesting to me.
superior to the rapier?
I don't believe so. I don't recall off the top of my head. I think most base weapons, with the exception of the two big two-handed weapons, a great sword and a great axe. The great sword, when it comes to damage dealing, is the best.
You know what I think? Why this is? I think.
Why is that?
Is because sneak attack only works with light and finesse weapons.
Yes.
And I don't know if there are many finesse weapons in martial weapons.
I thought there was at least two others. I can't remember off the top of my head. I could be
if there
totally
is,
wrong,
yeah.
and maybe that is
This
the
might
case.
just be a way to protect players from screwing up.
Sure.
But yeah.
Makes sense to me. All right, cool. Tools, you get thieves tools.
I will say though, it would be kind of nice if there was a rapier equivalent that does slashing damage, if only because sometimes, like if I want to be a dual wielding rogue, for some reason, and I did this in our one shot recently with Lazolda. For some reason, the vision of dual wielding rapiers
It's so funny.
Stab,
Poke, yeah.
poke is really silly.
Oh, it's hilarious.
Whereas like using scimitars makes more sense
For sure.
thematically, but scimitars are mechanically worse than rapiers, and it just kind of seems like if there was a D8 finesse slashing weapon, like it wouldn't be better. It would just be different.
Yeah, exactly.
I wonder if this is just because I think in general they have tried to be relatively sort of faithful to like actual weaponry.
Yeah.
And maybe there just never really was like a rapier equivalent that has a blade. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, yeah, for all intents and purposes, like this is a quick tip for DMs out there. If your player has like a specific fantasy and like there's a rapier deals D6 damage, I believe.
D8.
Oh, it's D8.
Yeah.
Oh, like a normal. Okay, like a normal sword.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I don't really want to use a rapier. Can I just like flavor this to this and we'll just use the same damage? Just do that.
Yeah.
Like, just make your players happy. Like that's it. It literally has no consequence or whatever.
As long as it's mechanically equivalent.
Yeah.
Go for it. Yeah.
Exactly. Tools, like I said, thieves tools. That makes sense. Saving throws, you get dexterity and intelligence.
That makes sense to me.
Makes total sense to me.
Yep.
I think that's great. Skills, you get to choose 4, which is not normal for other classes, which this makes a lot of sense though, given that they usually have a plethora of abilities that they can pick from. You get to choose 4 from a lot. This is a long list, so bear with me. Acrobatics, athletics, deception, insight, intimidation, investigation, perception, performance, persuasion, sleight of hand, and stealth. So it's a lot to choose from. Most people automatically will pick stealth almost no matter what. So it seems to me that that's almost always just a given, to the point where I would have liked to just see like you get stealth and then you get to pick 3 or 4 others.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like no one is. It's very rare that I've seen that anyone would not pick stealth.
Well, this is actually maybe a good time to jump back to what I said we talk about later. I know expertise comes up next. And if you all don't know what expertise does, it basically lets you double your skill proficiency with the skills that you pick.
And you get that at level 1.
You get that at level 1, which is cool.
Which is amazing.
So let's say you're a level 1 rogue and you pick stealth, sleight of hand, acrobatics, and whatever. Deception.
Deception, sure.
Right. And you then take expertise in stealth and sleight of hand. Like that's going to be a pretty in line with a pretty typical rogue build, right? So you're really good at stealth, you're really good at sleight of hand, and you're decent at deception and acrobatics. That's probably something or close to what 95% of all rogue players will take. And yet, to your point where you were saying earlier that it's like really hard to play against type with a rogue.
Yeah.
Like if you think about it, you could play a rogue, and you could take, perception and persuasion and some of the other shit on that list, and add your expertise to those things, and you could play a bookworm rogue, or you could play like a genuine, just like boots on the ground, trying to get people to like believe in your cause.
And there are subclasses that support that too.
Yeah, and so I actually, in a way, I kind of play both sides of the fence. In a way, I like that because it does let you play against type if you want. And on the other hand, sometimes I don't like when players are given choices that will ultimately be proved to be wrong. And I'm not saying that this is necessarily one of those cases, but like, as an example, I think that you almost always should take stealth and thieves tools with your first level expertise.
Yeah.
I think it's mostly just wrong to not do that.
Yeah, it's it's very rare, unless your dungeon master specifically is presenting to you a certain type of campaign.
Yeah.
It's very rare that you will get good opportunities to realize the expertise in other skills that you might want to use. the most common thing that you're going to be doing is using your thieves tools and stealthing as a rogue, generally.
By the way, Garrett says rapiers have a blade. I think you're thinking of foils. Maybe not.
In the mechanics in the game, though, suggests that rapier does piercing damage.
Yeah. Right.
So that's, I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying,
I thought a rapier was
unfortunately,
the classic like pirate sword with the
generally yes.
Covered.
As far as I know, yes. But I've seen like they'll swish and swash and stuff like that. So.
Garrett, I don't believe you.
Wrong.
Prove it. Anyway, especially because like something like acrobatics, I think could easily be a trap for people. Like acrobatics is, in my opinion, one of the very worst skills in the game that almost never matters.
Yeah.
The only time I've ever been asked to make a acrobatics check is when I've been like, I want to do
this cool thing. Yeah, right? Yeah.
And it's like thematic and cool, but like you could just be like, yeah, that was dope, and not make me roll.
Yeah.
It's acrobatics along with probably one or two of the other skills. Just like seems like it really never gets used because like if you're like, oh, the ship veers to the right, and you need to do something to see if you can stay on your feet. That's never an acrobatics check.
That's like a strength check,
or a dex save,
or dex save. Yeah.
Right. A lot of times anything that's a reaction is a saving throw.
Yeah.
So when am I going to make an acrobatics check? If I'm crossing like a real sketchy bridge. If I'm trying to jump across like stepping stones across like a rushing river, like technically they could happen, but like almost never.
And as a dungeon master, generally, I don't think to have you make an acrobatics check. Going back to what you said, if you're doing that, it seems perilous enough to me that I would react as a saving throw, not as a ability check.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
And so that's the thing is like I think this just presents an opportunity for a player to be like, yeah, I want to be this dope. Because it's a really cool vision in your head to be like that acrobat, right?
Yes.
And that's just mechanically a poor choice. And so giving players that choice means a bunch of them will take it and then be disappointed.
Yep.
But you can't have it both ways.
No.
You know. You can either just tell them what expertises they get and make them, arguably correct, or you can let them pick and then they live and learn.
Yeah. And that's such is life.
Yeah.
All right. So in addition, at the first level. Expertise, by the way, you get at the first level, which is amazing, and then you get another set of expertises that you can pick at 6th level, which is great. Sneak attack, you also get at the first level. This is your core combat ability as a rogue. It will be the thing that you look forward to most as you level up to get more dice and damage in this. It's going to be the thing that you always ask about in combat no matter what. You'll always ask, do I get sneak attack for this? And as a dungeon master, I will always tell you, it makes no sense for you to get sneak attack here, or whatever. You know what I mean? So the way sneak attack works is beginning at first level, you know how to strike subtly and exploit a foe's distraction. Once per turn, you can deal an extra 1d6 damage to one creature you hit with an attack if you have advantage on the attack roll. So that is the first time on any of your turns that you have advantage on a roll, you get sneak attack. So you could get advantage for a myriad of different ways. Some of them are mechanically shown for you in the class itself. As you move through looking at subclasses, they provide you with advantage, which in turn you would get sneak attack for. A lot of times you get advantage if a creature is surprised by your attack. So that is generally where the question like, oh, do they see this coming type thing?
Surprise seems to be a condition that's not very well. I don't know if it's not very well understood or if it's not very well designed. But either way, because I know the rules to this game pretty fucking well. And surprise just seems like a... What do you think, Sal? Is this a surprise?
Yeah, no, and it's just sort of like this nebulous, like, you kind of as a dungeon master have to look at the whole situation and go, all right, well, would this character see this coming? And it's very difficult sometimes to be like, because every dungeon master, no matter what anybody says, in the back of your mind, yes, you're presenting the game to have the players have fun and to tell a fun story. And every dungeon master, I don't care who you are, I don't care what you say, every dungeon master hates being like, not one-upped, but like every dungeon master hates, I don't want to say losing either.
Yeah.
But there's a part of you as a dungeon master, you don't want to give these players like everything.
Sure.
No matter what, you could be the most generous lover in the world. I don't care who the fuck you are. You don't want to give your players everything. So there's always this sort of thing where you have to sit down, and it's a nebulous question to be like, are they surprised by this? And you have to think like, damn, would they actually be surprised? And then the first thing you think is, no, fuck you. No, they're not. But then, so that's the problem. It's like there's no clear-cut rules as to what constitutes as the surprise condition. There's always this huge misconception that there's a surprise round, mostly because I think that came from
older editions.
I think it came from older editions or Pathfinder or whatever, and they did that in Critical Role for a long time until they just I don't know if they still do it or not, or if they just decided, oh, we're gonna treat it as a condition or whatever. I don't know. I don't ever remember them treating it as a condition. I've seen like everything, but whatever. So it's always this tricky thing to like figure out like if you have sneak attack or not. Some dungeon masters are just like super rigid about this, which I encourage you, if you're a dungeon master out there and you're DMing for a rogue, have pretty strict guidelines of what constitutes for you personally as a surprise thing, and then if you get to a really weird situation, then generally err in favor of the player. That's always what I suggest to people, unless they're asking something ludicrous of you. But the very interesting thing about sneak attack, the times that you do not need advantage on the attack, it indicates here you do not need advantage on the attack roll if another enemy of the target is within 5 feet of it, that enemy isn't incapacitated, and you don't have disadvantage on the attack roll. So that's actually a big thing that I always forget about as a dungeon master.
I didn't know that was there.
Yes, yeah. You can never get sneak attack if you have disadvantage.
Okay.
No matter for any reason, if you have disadvantage in the attack, you cannot get sneak attack.
Yeah. So if you're fighting like an obscured or invisible enemy, you can never get sneak attack.
Yes. The only case where you could is if you have some bonus which would neutralize the disadvantage, and then in addition you have the extra character, right? Yeah. But yes, so the amount of extra damage increases as you gain levels. That makes sense. That's your core ability. So that's sneak attack. It's arguably the most important.
I mean, this is basically the way that rogues fight. That's differently than everybody else. It's kind of the defining feature of the rogue.
Especially because they don't get multi-attack.
Right, they don't get multi-attack, so this is the way that they kind of keep up with other marshals that get multi-attack, and that's described explicitly in the description. Is like
you like one hard strike.
Yeah. Which is cool. There's things that you can play with, like obviously opportunity attacks. Like you wouldn't necessarily think like, oh, I'm a rogue, I want to be on the front line and get those opportunity attacks, but opportunity attacks are very good with rogues. Yeah, because it's a way that they can sneak attack twice in a round. But yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah, absolutely. At level 2, you get the cunning action, which is this is such a great feature of a class. It just makes your action economy so much more interesting. It's similar to why economically the monk feels really fun, because you just have so many choices that you can do, especially with your bonus action, that a lot of other classes don't get.
Except this is free.
And then there's nothing that this is the better version of.
I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say, Garrett, get at me. If you're thinking about playing a monk, just play a rogue instead.
More or less.
Just do it.
Yeah, it's just the rogue is just a better kind of. It's just a better version. It is more fun, but it generally is. Cunning action starting at level 2. Your quick thinking and agility allow you to move and act quickly. You can, yes, great. That's such a funny sentence. Your quick thinking and agility allow you to move and act quickly.
Yeah, perfect.
Makes total sense to me. You can take a bonus action on each of your turns in combat. We've said this before in many other episodes. I love getting to read. You can use a bonus action to do something. I just think like, dude, there's so many things that do not need to be fucking full actions. It fucks up with your action economy, but bonus actions are the best. So you get to use one of 3 actions: dash, disengage, or hide. If you're not familiar, dash doubles your speed. Usually that takes an entire action to do for any other class, which you can still do as a rogue. So you can actually move up to triple your normal speed as a rogue. You can still take the dash action and then use your cunning bonus action to dash as well. So if your speed is 30, most other classes at the most that they can move in their turn is double that. They have to use their action, so 60. You as a rogue can use your full action, your full movement, and your bonus action to move every single time. So you can move up to 90 feet if your base is 30, which is like incredible. Yeah. It's very, very good.
So if the rogue has a faster mile by the monk than a monk by a long shot.
Up until a certain level, yeah. Up until a certain level where you can start taking Step of the Wind, and then your base speed increases exponentially as a monk as you get to a certain level.
Yeah, but you're gonna run on a Step of the Wind after what? 30 seconds of running?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So if you're marathon running, yes, that's true. Yeah, that's true. In short bursts, up until a certain level, still the rogue will outrun the monk, which is hilarious.
I'm just gonna keep shitting on the monk because
no, the monk,
Garrett's in chat.
the monk deserves it though. The monk is not that good of a
chat.
class.
So like the monk's been living on the mountain, you know, smashing his hands against rocks, giving himself the perfect body.
Yeah.
Grinding away, and the rogue meanwhile is like drinking ale and stealing purses.
Yeah.
And like then they're like, I'll race you. The monk says
The
confidently,
rogue
and the rogue's
chain
like,
smokes. Yeah, the rogue's just chain smoking the whole time. Doesn't give a fuck. Oh my god, so funny.
and then just crushes the monk in a foot race. It's
How it be sometimes. Yes, so disengage is also a very, very good mechanic, especially to use as a bonus action. You don't incur attacks of opportunity from your enemies, which is one of the hardest things to deal with as a melee martial class. You have to really think about your positioning in the encounters that you have, and then you have to really make these sometimes perilous choices where you're like, fuck, I need to get out of here, but I'm surrounded. Or even at the very least, there's two people on me. I'm gonna possibly take 2 attacks. Like, this is gonna suck for like no reason. So that's very, very good to have. And then the hide action is, again, another thing where as a dungeon master, you're gonna deal with this all the time. I'd like to take the hide bonus action, and you're in the middle of like
an
the open field
on a sunny
like
day.
in combat with like 4 other enemies, and you're like, I have to literally look at you and say no. You know what I mean?
Nightbot just shut down Garrett.
That's so funny.
My favorite thing that's
I love it. Nightbot's hilarious. Just
Deleted
slaps
all
the
of his
shit.
photos.
It's so good.
Get him, Nightbot.
That's so
Fucking
fucking funny. Oh my god, that is hilarious. Oh my god, Garrett, that's so funny. Nightbot's like, you're spamming, brother. That's so funny. I think it was because only you have been typing, and then one of them was in all caps, and it was like spam detected. That's so
dude,
funny.
Get wrecked.
Damn, that's tough. Anyway, so cutting action's amazing, and that's a really good
package. What the rogue gets in the first 2 levels is, it's not even that it's necessarily super powerful, but it's just such a nice package thematically, mechanically. It gives you everything that you like. They work so well together.
That's so good.
Right? You get bonus action hide, and you get expertise in stealth.
Yeah.
You get, you know, the ability to get in with dudes, get your sneak attack, bonus action disengage, get out. Like, it's just, you know, you're sneaking into a house, the cops catch you, you fucking dash 1,000,000 miles an hour out of there. It's they work so nicely together. And like, you know, if you're like, hey, you know, Matt, roll up a level 2 character, like Rogue is high on the list.
Rogue is so good at level 2. It's nuts.
Like Rogue and Barbarian. Like, these low levels are the places where these classes really shine.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
It's awesome. And to get onto the other side of the coin with that, to sort of discuss why maybe you and I, this will sort of keep this class from ever getting to S tier, while the lower levels work nearly better than any other class. Unfortunately, and this is where a lot of martial classes suffer in general, when you get into the literally once you pass like 7th level as a rogue, your core features that you get at higher levels, I could not give less of a shit about.
Yeah.
Like, compared to like other classes that are getting like these insane like world bending abilities at their base level, like, I'm just gonna, so for those of you who don't know, level 6 you get expertise. We've talked about this before. You also at level 5 you get uncanny dodge, which is amazing. Any specific single attack against you, you can use this as a reaction on your turn to just take half damage. There's no save or anything.
Michaela, PS, get wrecked.
So funny. There's no save or anything. You just choose like, hey, it's a single attack. I don't want to take this full damage. I take half, which is amazing. That's so good.
Uncanny dodge to have single attacks.
Yep.
And then later you get evasion to basically
at
have
level 7
AoE attacks.
Very close together in proximity. Might I add, like 2 levels later you get evasion, which is great.
Like together they're almost packaged up. Like between the 2 of them, you almost get sort of that barbarian rage type thing.
Yeah.
Where you can you're kind of taking half damage on everything. And granted, uncanny dodge isn't as good when enemies are attacking you 3 times in a round or whatever.
Right.
But probably with bonus action disengage and things like that, you're probably, hopefully, not getting.
If you're on about like your positioning and your like, you actually really do pay attention when you guys are doing combat encounters.
Yeah.
A rogue, and this Garrett can attest to this too. If you're actually like paying attention to that, you will get hit surprisingly less often than anybody else, and you will take less damage than surprisingly anyone else.
Yeah, so between evasion and uncanny dodge and cunning action, you get this really nice defensive package that allows you to play that striker where you get in, get out. Yeah, you only have a D8 hit die, but you become surprisingly resilient. It's just, I just think this class is really nicely designed.
Yeah.
In that way.
Yes. Oh, it's so good. At level 11, you get reliable talent. Reliable talent is nice.
It's very cool.
Very cool, and I like it a lot. Beyond this, I will be honest with you, a lot of these things seem to feel like super lackluster. But reliable talent, by 11th level, you've refined your chosen skills until they approach perfection. This makes a lot of sense with the class. Whenever you make an ability check that lets you add your proficiency bonus, you can treat a d20 roll of 9 or lower as 10. So that does not say that you cannot include your bonuses to these abilities, right? So it's not that you automatically take 10 if you roll 10 or lower. It's the roll on the die automatically becomes 10. You cannot roll lower than 10.
This is at level 11?
This is at level 11.
So your proficiency bonus is what, 4?
Yes, and then in addition to whatever your ability bonus is.
So basically, you're going to get, say, at a minimum +4. So basically, anything that you're proficient in, you're going to get like 15s. Is going to be your worst.
15 is usually going to be your worst.
And on something like stealth or sleight of hand, it's going to be more like 20.
Yeah, which is like
18.
Which is, it's so funny to me that like this class and then the bard.
And if you have expertise, right, then it's 8 at a minimum.
Yeah.
So your expertise skills, like basically the lowest you're going to roll is a 20.
Yeah, and there's this argument. There's a common argument that is made about 5th edition in general, that there are a lot of things, and I would encourage a DM if you're thinking about this and you've maybe encountered this here and there. There are a lot of characters by the level 11, right, that arguably you should not be rolling lower than a certain amount, because you're level 11 on some of these things that are just a part of your class that like it doesn't make much sense that you would almost ever fail at being able to do something, right? Like the natural one is always fun.
Yeah.
And if you're a dungeon master, don't punish your players too much when they roll a natural one, especially if it's out of combat or whatever. But like there's this argument where it's like, well, I'm a level 11 fighter or whatever. Why would I ever fail at this thing that I'm literally now better at than 99% of the people in the world, right?
Yeah.
I still have to roll a dice, and some people are like, well, that you have your bonuses, and so if you're level 11, you should have like a plus 8 to 10 on whatever you're doing. It's like, yeah, but if I roll a 2, that's still 12. And a lot of times my DC is higher now because I'm level 11.
Yeah.
So it's like, why doesn't, not every class, but like, it doesn't need to be like something as broad as reliable talent or jack of all trades is. I think those are great for like these classes and what these classes boast. But I'm pretty sure like at level, if level 11 we want that to be like the sort of next tier.
Yeah.
I think pretty much every class should get like their level 11 like can't fail like skill, because otherwise it's like,
yeah,
what am I doing? Why am I failing at
everything? It's very funny. I think Kill and Kaz have arm wrestled like twice now,
and Kill loses.
Kill has lost both times,
and he's mechanically stronger.
Yeah,
than
Kill's got
Kaz.
Kill's got like a +6 or something in athletics.
Yeah,
a 6 or 7, and he's a fucking 400-pound turtle.
Yeah,
and Kaz is like a live tiefling rogue and probably has, I don't know, like 12 strength or something. Yeah. And it's very funny, but it certainly doesn't make sense.
Right.
I think part of this is just when you choose as a DM to not even ask for a roll.
That's a big thing too.
And I know contests are different, you kind of have to, but if it's like, if let's say Kill walks up, right, and he's like, I want to lift this heavy bag, right? At level 2, you might be like, yeah, roll it and see if you can.
Yeah.
But like, if I'm like level 10 and I'm strong as fuck, you might just be like, yeah, you lift it.
Yeah.
Right.
But the only problem, I mean, that's so true, and like as a dungeon master, I highly recommend
and so
that.
basically what you're doing is you're deciding that does this challenge represent a reasonable chance of failure?
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, don't even ask for the roll, because the roll can only disappoint you.
Right. Oh, for sure.
And if it does, and they fail, then it's like, and you always do a good job of this, is like, it's not necessarily that you were too weak, but maybe
it just
you got
takes you
distracted by
longer
something, or you're just like, you realize that like, I don't know, it could be like, oh, suddenly you got a scratch on your ass and you set it back down, so, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
But I do think that it's good to remember as a DM that you can just let players succeed at things without asking them to roll.
And I totally agree with that, and I think that is how, right now, especially because it's not written in, that's how it should be handled. Yeah. It's just like when it's written in for like a couple classes, it's kind of just like, okay, well then I have to rely on my dungeon master to do this, and it's like, if you have a good dungeon master, that's great. If you have someone who like doesn't pay attention too much to that, and you're always kind of like, why am I the strongest member of the party and like I'm failing at these strength checks, my other people like they're just getting lucky on the rolls and they do better than me? It's like, doesn't make much sense. Yeah, I guess the way to think about reliable talent is, even in situations where there is a reasonable chance of failure, you still don't. Yeah, because you're more reliable. Yeah, very true. So these are the higher level core class abilities. We won't have enough time to get into the subclasses, but I think with our with the next stuff that we're planning for the podcast, we can save some of the subclass stuff for that.
Yeah, we can just kind of breeze through these high level things too.
The high level stuff is, I'll just read a few. So at level 14, you get blind sense. This is cool. Yeah. I don't know how often you're going to be dealing with this. So again, this feels like a throwaway thing. Starting at the 14th level, you're able to hear. If you are able to hear, you are aware of the location of any hidden or invisible creature within 10 feet of you. Okay.
10 feet is tough, but
it's level 14, dude.
10 feet's tough.
You know what you get at level 14 as a fucking warlock?
Yeah.
Like, this is like nothing. Slippery mind, level 15.
I just think 10 feet is like, if that was 30 feet, it's actually a reasonable feature, because at that level, there's probably...
Just give them blind sense for 30 feet.
Yeah, that'd be fine. Yeah. Because at that level, there's probably a lot more invisible creatures and stuff, but 10 feet is tough.
Yeah, literally give them, like, blind sense. The feature is called blind sense. This is not blind sight. You know what I mean? Which is like, okay. Or true sight or whatever. You know what I mean? That'd be sick. You know, it's at the 14th level, you're so fucking in tune with like reality around you that you can just close your eyes, focus, and you can feel the presence of things around you. Like that's cool. And that also supports the sentence where it's like, some of them are magical. It's like, okay, but you have to go to the subclass to do that. Yeah. 15th level, the next level, you get slippery mind. Again, why this is not a lower level thing, I don't know. By 15th level, you've acquired greater mental strength. You gain proficiency in wisdom saving throws.
That's really powerful, though.
It's very powerful, but it seems to me that like by the time the 15th level comes along, the things that you're going to be saving against, the DCs are going to be really high anyways. And it's not that this is not going to help you. This is going to be very good, because the most common saving throw generally is wisdom saving, and then dex behind that. Excuse me. It feels like too little too late for me, because I feel like this in particular, yes, it's very strong, maybe should have something else paired with it. If it's going to be level 15, I feel like this is not enough. It's good, but I wish there was a little bit more to it. Maybe give an additional, I don't know, maybe also have expertise at this level too. You get I think you that gives you a little bit more to look forward to. Your 15th level, why not have further expertise or expertise or whatever?
You know, you can add like a resistance to psychic damage or something.
Yeah, something like that.
I would say though that like anytime you can add another saving throw to your saving throw proficiency, especially like at 15th level, again, now we're talking about a +5 almost into +6 proficiency. Yeah. Like adding another +5 to your wisdom saves, and the way that D&D works mechanically with the bounded accuracy or whatever is like spell save DCs are only going to get up. Of course, you can do anything you want with like CR 20 beasts and stuff, but like saving throw DCs at that level are probably going to be like 17, 18. So if you have let's say you only have like a 14 whiz. Yeah. Right. So you need a 16 to save. Yeah. With a +2. Now with another +5, you need 11. Like, yeah. And wisdom saving throws basically say you don't get to play the game.
Yeah, it's basically if you fail, you're out of the game for like a little bit. Yeah.
So like me as sort of like a quote unquote like power gamer, sure. Like I'm excited to get a wisdom save.
Yeah, for sure. I just wish that you would get it at level 13 or like maybe level I don't know. I just feel like 15 is so far along that you're an epic level character, and it's still good. All you get is a wisdom saving throw proficiency. It's like I feel like it could be a little bit more. I do want to bring attention to Saline says in chat, which haven't seen it a bit. Saline, at least in chat. What up? They say, actually, with reliable talent, you've gone to therapy more and have dealt with all the traumas of the world you live in, so you're not as anxious as the rest of the party. I mean, I respect that. It's just also at the same time, it's like, well, unless you've been traveling with the party the whole time, or unless you haven't been traveling with the party the whole time, it's like everyone has experienced like the same stuff throughout the adventure usually, and it's just like, all right, yeah, you get to like save. But yes, I think that's lovely. I think that's very funny.
It's easy to complain, and Sal and I were talking about this before we started the pod a little bit. It's easy to complain in general about high-level features in D&D because most of them aren't very exciting.
Right.
There's a lot of like really niche stuff at high levels. Oddly, there's a lot of kind of ribbon type features where it's like a lot of flavor and not much substance.
Yeah.
Something. Again, not to belabor the point, something like an extra saving throw proficiency is actually quite strong.
Yes.
Some other classes, and even Rogue maybe, like, they'll get features that are like, when you make a history check, you can roll with advantage. At like level like 14.
I know, it's like, okay.
Like, cool. And the thing is, like, when you're a spell, this is really why, it gets belabored a lot, people talking about marshals versus spellcasters.
Right.
But the thing is like, the features that high-level marshals get aren't really any better in general. Actually, like the couple that, particularly the saving throw one, is quite good, I think. But in general, they aren't really that much better than the features that spellcasters get. But spellcasters are also getting higher-level spells. And the thing is, like, spells don't increase in power linearly either. A 4th-level spell, like the difference between a 2nd and 3rd-level spell, is smaller than the difference between a 3rd and 4th level spell in power. So when you're getting to 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th level spells, the power increase is like exponential. It's insane.
Oh, it's wild.
You could argue that spellcasters should just get no features after like level 10. Other than the
it's
spells.
like you just get spells.
So like when they get ribbon features or niche stuff, it's like it's fine.
Yeah.
But like, your rogues, your barbarians, monks, like fighters, all of the marshals, they should be getting substantial features at higher levels. Because they just, otherwise they basically don't keep up. And so while I think like, I think the name is horrible. What is it? Wet Mind or whatever.
Slippery Mind.
I think Slippery Mind is a terrible name.
Slippery Mind.
But, like you definitely, especially capstone features on marshals, should be fucking bonkers.
Yeah. These next two features, as far as I've just sort of cursory seen as I'm scrolling through them, do seem really cool. Again, it's just kind of like, man, this is 18th level, and like this is great. I wish there was something a little bit more to it. This is still cool though. This sort of adds to your defensive little toolkit. Keep in mind, this is the 18th level where I believe casters get 9th level spells. Okay, so this is reality altering.
Which level?
This is 18th.
17th is when you get 9th.
So this is after that.
Yeah.
Okay. So keep in mind, yes, when we read this, we'll be like, oh, that's good. This is not reality warping or like so advantageous to the point where I'm like, I can't wait to be an 18th level rogue.
Yeah.
In my opinion. You gain a feature called elusive. Beginning at 18th level, you are so evasive that attackers rarely gain the upper hand against you. No attack roll has advantage against you while you are not incapacitated.
That sucks.
That's a good feature.
I don't even think that's good.
For maybe level 7.
Yeah.
This is level 18,
I think
dude.
That's decent on a frontliner.
Sure.
On a rogue?
You're never dude, if I told Garrett, who plays a swashbuckler rogue at level 6, that, hey, you actually get this, I guarantee you that will almost never come up
Yeah.
Because he's barely ever getting hit as it is.
The only time Garrett's ever been attacked, the only time Kaz ever gets attacked with advantage is when he's already been incapacitated by something else.
And even then, the times that I get to hit him because he hasn't gotten evasion yet are with like AoE spells that I've hit him with, or AoE abilities.
Yeah.
Because he can't get out of the way of it. He can't uncanny dodge it. When he gets to level 7, guess what? That's going to be even harder for me to deal with for him. Well, not to say deal with, but like he's going to have an even better time because he's going to take half damage.
And at higher levels, I mean, full disclosure, I've never played at high level.
Sure.
But I'm presuming that at high levels, attack rolls in general become less prevalent in the face of like
you're
more
not going to
AoE
need
stuff.
advantage, dude.
Like dragons are breathing on you.
Yeah.
Like the claw attacks or the bites or whatever are the least of your concerns.
Dude, the bonuses to attack on some of these monsters that are like CR 15 plus are so bonkers that I could use disadvantage on you.
Yeah.
And like the entire fight, if I use well, actually at level 18, I would put you against an ancient dragon. If I use disadvantage on every single thing that I did as an ancient red dragon, to give you an example, I still would probably not have a hard time like damaging you or hitting you.
Yeah,
or
if you
whatever.
have a plus 15 to hit, like who cares if you're rolling a disadvantage or advantage?
Yeah, whatever.
Other than it increases the crit chance. But
yeah.
Like, so yeah, that might be the worst feature that the rogue gets, actually.
Well, we'll see with Stroke of Luck. This is the capstone feature, which famously suck. Stroke of Luck. At 20th level, you have an uncanny knack for succeeding when you need to. If your attack misses a target within range, you can turn the miss into a hit. Alternatively, if you fail an ability check, you can treat the d20 roll as a 20. However, once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish at least a short rest. So that's cool. Guess what you can do at the fucking first level as a variant human, if your DM allows this? You can just take luck as a feature.
Yeah.
And you get basically better version of this. You can do it 3 times a day.
You can't guarantee a hit, though.
You can't guarantee it.
Yeah.
But like 3 times a day, no matter what, I can fucking try at level 1.
I at least get this feature because as a rogue, you get 1 chance to hit.
True.
And all of your damage relies on that 1 hit.
Sure.
And so missing as a rogue is brutal.
Yeah.
So this means that at least once in a fight, when you would miss, you just straight up hit and you roll your fucking 10d6 or whatever sneak attack. This doesn't get me hard, but if you compare this to most of the capstone features, I would argue that this is probably one of the better ones.
It's good.
Weirdly.
You know what I wish this said?
What's that?
Once a day, like you'd have to, this would be very difficult to balance properly, but keep in mind there are spells, the power word spells that are basically like, one of them literally says, I mean essentially says, did you whittle your opponent down to X amount of health? They're dead.
Yeah.
That amount of health is removed from the game.
They have like 100 HP or less.
They die.
They just die, yeah.
So what I wish this said, because it's a 20th level thing, and you're a rogue, you get 1 shot, and you're really fucking good at that 1 shot. I wish this just said like, make like X check or like dependent on this factor or whatever. Essentially, if you hit with your attack, you kill your opponent. Like you just find their weak point and you fucking kill them.
No, you know what? I laughed really hard because it's so stupid.
Yeah, it's so dumb, but like,
it also totally.
Come on, dude.
Work.
Like, yeah.
We definitely we already have. Yeah, I know, Garrett. Believe it or not, not literally everything gets me hard. Just most things do.
Most things.
You in particular definitely always do.
That's right, baby.
We have some ideas for things to do after we wrap this series on the pod, but I do think one of the follow-up episodes should just be us presenting our ideas for capstones.
I would love to do that. I would actually love to do that.
Let's definitely do that.
I think I would like to do an Inner Rim podcast episode between like our next little series of like ranking things or whatever, if you want to do that or like whatever. And I would love to just be like, hey, these are what we think the capstone thing should be.
Yeah.
And I think that would be very fun. I like that.
And we can either just like split them up and each do half, or we can, if it's not too much, we can do all 13 or whatever.
For sure.
But well, it's 107.
It is 107.
We've gone a little bit long.
We do.
But so let's start. Canceled. So
fuck.
So final thoughts on the rogue, and I know we didn't talk about subclasses. I do want to say one point on the subclasses is this complaint does apply to many other classes, not just rogue. But rogue has a particular subclass that's so much better than every other one, the arcane trickster.
Yeah.
And not only is it so much better than every other one in general,
but it's also so much better than every other one at the specific things those other ones are trying to do.
That's so funny.
Like, if you want to be a thief, there's a thief subclass, but I guarantee you Arcane Trickster will make a better thief.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, with your mage hand like base ability, like that is already insane. Insane.
So like, I just think that Wizards needs to do a better job, of balancing subclasses and power, but also like, dude, don't call a subclass a thing and then let another subclass be better at that thing.
Yeah, it's tough.
If my player comes to the table and they're like, I want to be a thief, I'm going to be like, okay, that's cool.
Be an Arcane Trickster.
Maybe be an Arcane Trickster. You'll be a better thief.
It's more fun
than if you were a thief.
Yeah.
And you'll probably also have more fun.
Yeah.
And like Swashbuckler, which Kaz is I think not even arguably, I think it's definitely the second best subclass in my opinion.
If you want to be more combat focused, don't play anything else if you're a rogue. Like Swashbuckler is so mechanically far beyond anything else.
The thing though is I still think that Arcane Trickster might be better in combat.
Probably. So I'm not even that familiar with Arcane Trickster as far as you are, but because like,
imagine this, right? Imagine this right off the bat, right? Arcane Trickster presumably takes Find Familiar.
Yeah.
So now, every round of combat, they get advantage from their familiar.
Yep.
They don't have to work for it. They don't have to do anything. They don't have to steady aim.
Yep.
They always trigger sneak attack on every attack for the rest of the game, unless the DM specifically attacks your familiar, which like they can do, but they got to go out of their way to do it. It's probably not going to be like if you're using an owl, which you should. It's not going to be that easy to do. So and again, that's not just rogue. That's many other classes have subclasses that are unbalanced and trap new players who don't really have a good grasp of the mechanics.
Right.
Basically, pick the wrong subclass for their concept.
Yeah.
And I don't think that the strongest rogue, by a huge measure, should be the strongest rogue because they get magic. I think that's a disservice to the class.
Dude. That sucks.
To be like, the way to be the best rogue is to have magic.
It's to not really be a rogue. Yeah.
I think that kind of sucks. And I think that's less about the Arcane Trickster being too good than it is about other classes just not, Anyway.
Yeah.
But like, I think rogue, in terms of the criteria that we've set forth for this series, I think when you play a rogue, you're gonna feel like a fucking rogue.
Fuck yeah.
You're really good at the skills you've chosen to be good at. Thieves' tools are basically the only tool in the game that's like reliably useful. Stealthing is really useful. Sleight of hand is really useful. If you go to pickpocket somebody and they catch you, you maybe have expertise in deception and can get out of it. Sneak attack is really fun. Cunning action works so well with sneak attack. You got evasion and uncanny dodge to help with your defensive package. I think if your DM is setting up a campaign at level 16, probably don't play rogue.
Probably not.
I think you might be a little bit more disappointed. But if you're playing where most players play in that sort of like level 1 to 10 range, I think your rogue is going to be really satisfying.
Oh yeah.
Like, I think it's like an A+.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely bumped up after we've gone through a lot of these things from beef for sure. I think that what we've talked about here, there are still a handful of things that keep this class away from S tier, which is unfortunate because I fucking love this class and it's awesome and everyone loves it. You know what I mean? It's very similar to the Bard. Everyone fucking loves this class. Everyone wants to play a rogue. Everyone's like, in my opinion, first concept of like a character usually starts off as a rogue and they're like, I want to make it a little bit different, and then you change it.
I think it'd be really nice if you just gave base rogues the thief ability to use an action command as a bonus action. So you're just better at like using tools and items that you've pilfered from people in combat.
That's cool.
Like, to me, that isn't necessarily thiefy as it is just like roguey.
Sure.
And it'd be nice to be that class that like can actually make use of things like ball bearings and caltrops easier, where you just like as a bonus action you throw out some ball bearings.
Yeah, it's fucking awesome.
You run in, you stab them, and then you throw out some ball bearings, and then you run away.
Pocket sand.
I think there's little things that could put it over into the S tier.
Yeah, for sure.
I definitely, for me, rogue is a high A. Sorry for interrupting.
No problem. I agree with you. Rogue is high A for me as well, especially after all of this. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this finally episode 9 of the Little Dicey podcast, where we finally have rated the rogue. However, there's one thing before we go that we need to address. Girls kissing, for me, that's a thumbs up.
Yeah.
God bless, and even just kissing in general, baby.
Kissing in
general. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
thumbs up, everybody.
I think everybody should
we promised you we'd fucking give you our steaming hot take on girls kissing, but I'm jumping up. And I'm talking about kissing in general, goddammit.
I think everybody should just kiss more.
Yeah, do it. Do it. Even if you have like gross, disgusting lips. Terrible. No, but it was demanded by our viewers that we talk about this, and we just did. So you're welcome.
If your primary fantasy was to be a girl and kiss a girl,
then fantasy achieved if you've done that.
Which class is the best class?
Ooh.
To be a girl and kiss a girl.
Oh, sorcerer. Sorcerer is the
just make
most.
Sure you consent.
Yeah, wait. Consent is key. We all understand this, okay? No. Sorcerer is the gayest class, and so makes sense to me.
Is that just because of Indigo, or was it always the gayest class?
Yep. Okay. I love you, Jamie. There we go.
I need to pick something other than sorcerer. Then I'm gonna say,
Yeah, hit me with it.
I think what you really want is to go into your barbarian rage.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And then really give it to him hard. Really get in there. So I'm gonna go barbarian.
Yeah,
I want to see some barbarian girls kiss.
Oh, fucking hell. Good stuff. I'm so glad we wrapped up the podcast like this. All right, well, Jesus Christ. Thank you all for tuning in once again. If you saw this on YouTube, check out our main show Wednesday evening, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's called, the name of the campaign is called The Great Nelidian Crown. This upcoming Wednesday, what is it going to be? August the fucking 17th, I think. Yeah, August 17th. You can find us, like I said, twitch.tv/LittleDiceyDND. We're going to be episode 31 of the Great Nelidian Crown campaign. We're very excited to bring you guys a new arc. The crew is going to be setting off on a new adventure, so definitely check us out there. Before then, on Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the same channel, you can find our moderator, Michaela, who is in chat right now. And myself, along with some other of the folk. Hopefully we'll get Hannah on. Hannah's our new introduced player to our campaign. We're going to talk hopefully a little bit about her character and about her inspirations behind the character.
Do we know what her class is yet? I mean, I do.
You do, yes, and the viewers do know. It says it on the screen when we bring up but she's playing an artificer. Yeah, it's wonderful. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to get to know Hannah a little bit better, and if you guys have any questions about the campaign in general, be sure to hop into our Discord, go to the questions tab, and ask us some stuff. Yeah. You can find a link to our Discord in the chat right now and in the description of our video here on YouTube too. So
get in the Discord. We're going to put up a new poll for next week to see which of the remaining 4.
Yeah, it's 3 or 4. I don't remember off the top of my head.
Classes that are left. It's Ranger. It's Monk. It's Cleric, I think. And
did we talk about Fighter yet?
And Fighter.
Yeah. So the 4. There you go.
So I'll put up the poll shortly. And
and I think we're including Blood Hunter.
Are we?
I think I don't remember.
It's never been included, but we can.
It hasn't. No, it hasn't. It's available on D&D Beyond. So
yeah. So maybe we'll add Blood Hunter to the mix. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you want us to talk about next week.
Hell yeah.
Also, let us know which class you think is the best to achieve your goal, your dream of being a girl and kissing a girl.
Yeah.
Or, alternatively, being a boy and kissing a boy, like whatever.
Yeah.
And
the class that will get if you're a fucking virgin, what class would get you laid? Just make it a huge leap.
By the way, Garrett says it's definitely rogues. Just imagine 2 hot rogues kissing. I think I'm gonna get in there with a little cunning action. And then Phantom says the advantage on strength checks in a barbarian rage really comes in handy.
Oh, it's so true.
When snogging.
Yeah, when snogging. I love that.
Well done, chat. Thanks for joining us as always. And get in the Discord.
Stay horny, chat. Stay horny. I fucking love you guys.
Stay horny.
Hell yeah. Alrighty, well, yeah, we're gonna take off. So, Matt, why don't you bring us to? Let's bring us to the end screen.
All right.
Pod end. Transition.
I'm about to do it.
We're doing it.
All right.
See you guys later. Fuck yeah, dude.